So, earlier I explained that the Bhagavad Gita contains each of the 6 darshanas of the Vedas. And today I wanted to discuss how Krishna has spoken about Sankhya and Vedanta. Now, Sankhya is a very important philosophy, and it's a very important philosophy simply because it is the foundation of yoga. So, if yoga is the practice, dhyan yoga, if dhyan yoga is the practice, then here, of course, with reference to the Bhagavad Gita, I am talking about Yagna Vakya's yoga, not Patanjali's, which came a long, long time later than the Bhagavad Gita. So, Sankhya is the theory and Dhyana Yoga is the practice. Hello? So, Sankhya is the theory, Dhyana Yoga is the practice. And as far as the Bhagavad Gita goes, the Bhagavad Gita Jnana is largely about Sankhya. You see, the Bhagavad Gita is broadly, you can say, divided into 3 parts. The first 1/3 of the Bhagavad Gita deals with the individual soul and deals with essentials of Karma Yoga. The next 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita deal with Bhakti Yoga and deals with the subject of God, just like the first 6 deal with the subject of the individual soul, and the means being essentially focus on Karma Yoga. In the second third of the Bhagavad Gita, you have focus on God, Krishna, and the means to reach him is discussed as Bhakti Yoga. Then in the last third part of the Bhagavad Gita, it starts from 13 and goes on to 18. The Bhagavad Gita deals with Jnana Yoga. And essentially, this Jnana Yoga, you will see as you study this third of the Bhagavad Gita, that it deals largely with Sankhya and also with Vedanta. So, in fact, people often mistake Sankhya for Vedanta. They write whole books on Vedanta and they talk all about Sankhya. A good example would be that Sankhya deals with numeration. This is very important to understand. Sankhya means numbers, to count. And by to count, it means that it dissects all the parts of creation. To give you an example, when you see a body and you dissect it into its various parts, all attraction for the body ceases. If you are very attached to somebody and then they are put on a dissection table in the anatomy laboratory and they are cut up into pieces, all your attraction for that body will cease because each part of the body is taken off bit by bit by bit. So Sankhya works in the same way. It takes creation and then it breaks it up into karmindriyas, jnanindriyas, tanmatras, so on and so forth. And Prakriti is divided into some 24 evolutes. And then it talks about the three gunas and their combinations, which are five, and so on and so forth. This is how Sankhya Yoga proceeds. The purpose being that by analysis and dissection, you lose attraction for the world. So to understand Sankhya, I would like you to go essentially to the Bhagawad Geeta. And in the Bhagawad Geeta, I would like you to go to the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clearly describes what Sankhya is all about. And what is Sankhya all about? Sankhya is all about Purush and Prakriti. When you come to Vedanta, there are no divisions. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. But when you come to Sankhya, there are many. And therefore, Sankhya at its minimal is two. That is why people often mistake that Bhagavad Gita is about duality. But it's neither about duality nor is it about unity. It is about both. It explains Sankhya and the functions of the gunas and Prakriti. And then it goes on to discuss Vedanta, which is about Brahman. So if you go to chapter 14 and text 3, Krishna begins by explaining Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma Tasmin Garbham Dadami Aham Sambhavah Sarva Bhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. Now this is universally mistranslated. Mahad Brahma does not mean Brahman. Mahad Brahma means the essence, the overall mass of Prakriti. So there is Prakriti and there is Purush. And this Prakriti, which is known as Mahat, is impregnated by Purush, who is divinity himself. And this impregnation of Purush by Prakriti produces all living entities who are a combination of Purush and Prakriti. Please understand this very carefully. And this is not a Vedantic concept, as many foolish people keep insisting. This is very clearly a Sankhya concept. Sankhya begins with Purush and Prakriti. Purush is said to be the divine or God, and Prakriti is said to be none other than material nature. So material nature is my womb, Krishna says. I am the Mahat. I am, of course, he says, I am the Purush and Prakriti is the Mahat. And I impregnate Prakriti. And as I impregnate Prakriti, Mahat is not Brahman. Please note this. If you have your book Bhagavad Gita with you, please correct it. This is a mistranslation. The Sanskrit words are actually having a meaning according to context. And ignorant people who translate the Bhagavad Gita with a Sanskrit editor and go by the Sanskrit editor's translation are often unaware of this. Clearly, Mahad Brahma is the totality of Prakriti. And Krishna says, I am Purush, the Supreme Purush. And I use Prakriti as my womb. I impregnate that Prakriti. And in that Prakriti, I create all living entities. So all living entities are innumerable parts of the original Purush. So the Supreme Purush creates living entities by impregnating Prakriti, and many, many small Purushas are created with an envelope of Prakriti. So you have a body, you have a mind, you have an intelligence, you have an ahankar. All of these are part of Prakriti. Bhumi apo nalo vayur kham mano buddhireva cha ahankara itya me bhinna prakriti ashtada. Indeed, Krishna explains that look around you, whatever you can see, smell, taste, hear, touch, etc., all of them are Prakriti. Bhumi, apo, nalo, vayur, kham, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mano, buddhir, ahankar, mind, intelligence, ego, they are all part of my inferior energy, that is Prakriti. Aparayam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhao yayedam dharyate jagat. And he says that those of you, that part of you, which is sustaining and maintaining creation, because you are all part of my superior energy. And those of you who are part of my superior energy, that's the real you. So you are part of the divine, and you are weighed down by Prakriti. Now it's very difficult for you to control Prakriti. Krishna points out again in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha mana shastendriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Now while you are Krishna points out, you are an infinitesimal part of me. Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke. You are an Ansha, you are a fragment of me. You are an infinitesimal fragment of me. Who is struggling with your Prakriti, your mind and your senses, you are struggling with. But Mam eva ye prapadante mayam etam tarantite. But when you surrender unto me, you are able to transcend and overcome Prakriti. दैवीयस गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेवा ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायमेवं तरन्ति ते. Krishna explains that Prakriti is also my divine energy. And because you are infinitesimal in nature, you are unable to overcome it. But when you surrender unto me, you are able to cross over it. So to make it very clear, according to the Sankhya philosophy, you are not God. Get this idea out of your mind. You are not God. But put this idea in your mind. You are an infinitesimal part of God. And yet, despite being an infinitesimal part of God, it is very difficult for you to control Prakriti. Even your own Prakriti, you have difficulty in controlling. Right? There are people who can't stop themselves from reaching for drugs or for alcohol or even for an extra slice of chocolate cake because they're struggling with their Prakriti. But when they surrender unto Krishna, Bhagavan, they are able to transcend this Prakriti. Because Krishna explains, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Stuyate sa characharam Etuna nena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. Krishna points out that, I am the Adhyaksha, I am the controller of Prakriti. So Krishna is the controller of Prakriti. When you surrender to him, he brings Prakriti in control so that you can transcend it. So you are not only the soul, you are carrying with you the burden of Prakriti according to Sankhya philosophy and the Bhagavad Geeta. And this Sankhya philosophy states that you are carrying this Prakriti with you, which forms everything that you see, smell, hear, taste, touch, whatever you think, whatever you imagine, whatever you think you are, all of that is nothing but Prakriti. And it is when you turn to God, you will be able to transcend Prakriti. Because otherwise, Prakriti, which is constantly changing, is the source of your suffering. So this is very important for you to understand. And once you have understood that you are Purush, infinitesimal Purush, and also you understand that you are burdened down by Prakriti, you are ready to understand the rest of the Bhagavad. So, is God with you? Yes, you are an infinitesimal part of God. But that is why you are a Jeev Atman. And this Jeev Atman is weighed down by Prakriti. And unless this Jeev Atman surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he cannot overcome the sufferings of Prakriti. So therefore, you need to understand one more thing. Is God also within me? So Sankhya also answers this question. So we go now to text chapter 13. And when we go to chapter 13, please see verse 1 and 2. Arjuna vacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram jnana evacha etad veditum ichhami jnanam gneyam cha keshava. Shri Bhagavan vacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidiyate etadyo veti tam prahu kshetragnya iti tad viduha. Arjun says to the Lord, "Oh my dear Krishna, I want to know what is Prakriti. Want to know what is Purush. I want to know what is the field, and I want to know what is the knower of the field. And I want to know knowledge, and I want to know the end of knowledge. And the blessed Lord then said, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So you carry with you your kshetra with you. Your kshetra is your prakriti. Therefore, what is your prakriti? Your prakriti is none other than this physical body of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. So this is your field. And who are you? You are the individual soul, that fragment, that ansha of the Supreme Purush, the mini Purush, who is the individual soul, the Jivatma, situated within this Prakriti field. And you are the knower of your field. You are the knower of your field. Now, here in text 3, Krishna also then explains that while you are the knower of your own field, I am also situated in your body. And although I am situated in your body, I am situated in all bodies. And therefore, while you are the knower of your field, I am the knower of all fields. This you will find in 13.3. Kshetrajnam api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetrajnyor jnanam yad taj jnanam matam mamaha. I am situated in all bodies. To understand the body and this knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So you can know what is in your field, but you cannot know what is in everybody's field. You cannot know what is in everybody's thoughts, in everyone's body. And thus, it is important for you to become aware that the Lord, He knows everything. Krishna says very clearly that, I know the past, I know the present, I know the future of all living entities. But me, he says, nobody knows. So that knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described in various Vedic scriptures. Right? So in the Vedic scriptures, there are many descriptions of the field and the knower of the field. Now he begins to describe the Sankhya bit of it. So having described that you are the infinitesimal soul situated in this field of Prakriti, please note that in Vedanta there is nothing like Purusha and Prakriti. In Vedanta there is only Brahman. Sarva Khalva Idam Brahma. When you talk about Purusha and Prakriti, you are immediately talking only about Sankhya. And Sankhya means to count. So therefore, Krishna is explaining in 6 and 7. Mahabhutanya ahankaro buddhir avyaktam evacha indriyani dasaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha. Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sangatas chetana virti etat kshetram samasena savikaram udaritah. The 5 great elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego and intelligence, and the unmanifest. The 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, their aggregate, life symptoms, the convictions, all these are considered to be the field of activities and its interactions. So Krishna is explaining all these things as Sankhya. And he is explaining that for those who have this knowledge, it is manifest by certain qualities that become evident in the individual. And what are these qualities that become evident in that individual? Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshantir, arjavam, acharyopasanam, saucham, jnanam, acharyam upasanam, saucham, stairyam, atma vinigraha. So he says that you should be amanitvam, without any arrogance. You should be humble. You should be non-violent. You should be tolerant. You should be straightforward and transparent. Your behavior should be exemplary. You should be pure in conduct and in behavior. You have to be very steady, unshakable, and you are self-controlled. Indriya artheshu vairagyam. You are renounced mentally, internally, from the pleasures of the senses. Anahankara evacha. You are in fact without ego. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshanu darshanam. So all these qualities which are described from texts 8 to 12 describe the Sankhya or the enumerated aspects of what knowledge is. When you want to see what is Vedantic knowledge, Krishna explains all that also. If you go back to the 4th chapter, Krishna explains how through the performance of yajna or sacrifice, and through the sacrifice of self, one becomes aware of God. And this sacrifice of self, which leads to the awareness of God, Krishna describes. Yaj gnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava sarva bhutani asheshani drakshasya atmano athomai. When you have learnt the supreme knowledge, you will know that all beings are in me, they are part of me, and they are mine. That's Vedanta. Everything is part of God. All creatures are but part of God. Everything lies within God. Sarva khalva idam brahma. And in the 13th chapter, he goes on to having now, he's brought you to an awareness of Sankhya. He now explains what is Brahman. Just like I gave you this verse from the 4th chapter of Bhagawad Geeta. Now you see in the 13th chapter where he elaborates on this Brahman. He says in text 13, Gneyam yattat pravakshami yaj gnatva amritam ashnute anadi mat param brahma na sat tan nasad uchyate. He says, I will explain to you that which is noble, knowing which you will taste the eternal. The eternal is beginningless. It is subordinate to me. It is called Brahman, the spirit, and it lies beyond the cause and effect of the material world. So this is something very important here. He's pointing out that he is subsuming Purush Prakriti, he is subsuming Sankhya to Brahman. And while he is subsuming Sankhya to Brahman in this verse, he is also simultaneously saying that he is beyond Brahman. See, many people have been taught that Brahman is the end, that's it. But Krishna is saying that he lies beyond Brahman. In fact, you will find another verse in the Bhagavad Gita which explains this. He says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. He says, I am the rest, I am the support. It is from me that Brahman emanates. So Krishna explains that yes, Sankhya is there, that is the essence of knowledge. Above Sankhya, where Sankhya is subsumed, there is a Vedanta, because Sarva Khalva Idam Brahma. And then beyond Brahma is none other than Krishna himself. He has already explained that he, along with the individual soul, are present in each and every body. Within you, there is not only the Jivatman, within you, there is the Paramatman. This you will find in the verse which says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriday deshe arjuna tistati brahmyan sarva bhutani yantararudani maya tam eva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapshashi shashvatam. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanvishto matasmritir jnanam apahanam cha. Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krid veda vedeva chaham. So Krishna says, I am in your heart, you are seated in a machine made of material energy, that is Prakriti, and I am directing you onward towards your destiny. You merely need to surrender unto me, and by my grace you will cross over all obstacles and you will reach the supreme and final destination. He also points out that seated in your heart, as your companion, I am indeed giving you knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So, God is there as Paramatman within your heart. He is different from the Jivatman. If you go to the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, Krishna explains that this individual soul is situated in this heart and it is giving you consciousness throughout the body, just like the sun illuminates the universe. Yatha prakashayatya eka kritsnam imam lokam imam ravi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayatyo bharata. O son of Bharata, just as the sun alone illuminates the solar system, so does the living entity within this body illuminate your entire body with consciousness. So this is very clear that Jivatman is within your body and it's illuminating only your body with consciousness. But the Paramatman who knows all bodies, right? Although he knows all bodies, he is in your heart, he is your companion. Somebody told me, it's very good for Arjun. He had Krishna on his chariot to explain to him Bhagavad Gita and tell him what to do. What shall I do? In your chariot, within your heart, Paramatman is situated. And if you search him out and hear the words that Krishna is telling you as Paramatman, you will get his message, just like Arjun got his message. So we are exceeding the time. We'll pause here. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer or even take it further in another class. Does anyone have any Queries or questions? So again, let me re-explain to you. Sankhya is the basic philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. It is subsumed and overcome or enclosed within Vedanta. Sarva Khalva Idam Brahma. And even beyond Brahman is Krishna, who says that he is beyond Brahman. Is everyone clear on this? If you have any queries, please go ahead and ask me. No queries, no questions? All right. Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna to all of you.